All right, check, check. So it is Enchanter Shane, and I'm here with a vulnerable story of my story of from frumpy to fabulous, and how I learned to get my sexy on in a way that was victorious and not full of victim. So if you have one piece of frumpy, maybe it's the way you dress, or you feel like your clothes don't fit, or you're not brushing your hair, or you just sort of gave up and you're like, if you feel. So I had a different kind of frumpy. My frumpy always dressed well. My frumpy was the biggest and most self-hating people pleaser on the planet. So I was pissed off at everybody because everybody had it better than me. Everybody was cooler, had more friends, had the better genes. Everybody had an easy time in social situations. I had a different nose growing up, and because of the nose that I had, I made everything about it. And I thought that nobody would hang out with me because I was so ugly. Because I was so ugly. I don't know how else to say it, physically unattractive. And so at a certain age, I obsessed and convinced my dear family that I should get a nose job. Before the nose job, I was totally hunched over. Let me also just tell you that my breasts grew, my body grew into a woman's body in the 2nd grade. And that was really overwhelming because nobody else's body grew like mine did. And my mom, as loving as she was, did not know how to give me a bra or have any kind of conversation with me. So I had these huge breasts that went to the sides, and I didn't wear a bra. I didn't ask for a bra. I wasn't given a bra, and I just did a bunch of this. And I wore t-shirts, Champion t-shirts, and I look at pictures and I'm like, poor baby. And then I started having this big hair and it covered my face. So I grew and I grew, and I had this nose that just really bothered me. And so I wouldn't turn, I had a lot of specific ways that I would be. I wouldn't turn to anybody from the side. I wouldn't be close to anybody. And I used my hair to cover. And it's interesting because these days when I do videos, I touch my hair a lot, and I wonder if there's something in there. But my frumpy was not on the outside because it was a really clear message that you always looked great. You always dressed up, you always put on makeup, you always had good hair, and you didn't dress like you didn't care. That message was sent to me from every woman in my family, and they're beautiful women. There's a picture of my mom and aunt right there. But this message sent to me was like, that's the most important thing. It has nothing to do with your insides. You know, when I'm the firstborn generation in this country, so that my parents are Holocaust survivors. There was no talk of inner life. There was no talk of emotions. They were too big for anybody to handle. So I learned very quickly that you don't fucking show your feelings. You shut them down, you figure it out. Well, I, as a child, developed all these coping mechanisms, which were look fucking beautiful and everything will be okay. Well, inside, I held to that, and I was very disconnected. I didn't have any feelings. I didn't allow any feelings. Anger was the biggest feeling I ever had. And it's not like I had anywhere to put it because I was also a people pleaser. You ever meet an angry people pleaser? There's a lot of fake shit going on, and inside there was turmoil and anger and hate and this isn't fair and everybody's a fucking asshole. And I mean, everywhere I went, I just wanted people to like me desperately. And I would walk into a room and just put on my cool face and operate at a level of fear, and learning how to put on a mask so nobody would know I was afraid. Where I grew up in Brooklyn, girls were beating each other up for stealing each other's boyfriends, for looking at them the wrong way. And I was not a fighter, but I knew I had to look like one. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be down with the cool girls. I remember there was, I was so mean to myself, like abusive. And I still catch myself sometimes. Usually it's about being organized. Like if I forget my keys or I drop something, I'm like, you fucking asshole. Like this jolt of anger comes. And I'm sharing this story because it's really easy to see me now and be like, oh, she's fabulous. Like she doesn't even know from Frumpy. Well, the more frumpy I felt, the more I dressed up. The more shitty I felt, the more mean and abusive I was to myself, the more I put on a happy face. Until I decided, like, I'm fucking really fat. So at 19, I look at those pictures now. I remember being so mean because I had a wedding to go to. And I just was like so overwhelmed with how fat I was. Now, I've declared a lot about body dysmorphia and like not really knowing what I look like. I really don't. Because now looking back at those 19-year-old pictures, I'm like, oh my God, I was fucking perfect. So in my life, I've had 3 liposuctions, a nose job, and I used to get Botox a lot. And I still might. I don't care. I like it. I like the idea of plastic surgery. And the caveat to that is I like the idea of plastic surgery with consciousness. Not because if I don't have this, my whole life is going to be a mess. Or I'm going to still be an asshole. I had my very first boyfriend, I couldn't believe that he actually wanted to be with me. And it was with him that I got the nose job. And he was so lovely in so many ways. But I couldn't believe he wanted to be with me. Who would want to be with somebody with such a fucked up nose? That was the thinking I had. I thought nobody really wanted to be my friend. Nobody could tolerate being around me. Like I was grateful for any friends that I made. And I started smoking cigarettes because that's what the cool girls did. I started hanging out in the schoolyard at night and hanging out with, feels really shitty to say, but I was in a gifted and talented program, and I got myself out of that and started hanging out with girls that were always in trouble in remedial classes because I wanted to be like them because they were cool. So I learned that if you're cool, you're in these classes. Because in my classes, everybody was a geek and a nerd. And I didn't want that role. I was watching all these 80s movies, and I wanted to be a cool girl. So what changed my life was one of my teachers. Her name was Erin Flowers, and she is a guru. I never knew about words. I didn't understand empathy. I didn't understand discernment. I never heard these words. I didn't understand being in your body. I was like, what? I was in my 30s. Didn't even know what these words meant. And slowly but surely, I learned unconditional love. I learned I could be angry. I could be sad. It was like I was on a new Sesame Street. I could be in grief. I could be confused. I could feel stupid. I could feel insecure. And people will still like me? It blew my fucking mind, and I never turned back. And I'm not saying I'm totally healed and I'm fabulous all the time, but that frumpy, old school version of myself, I know her. She has needs, and I know how to meet them. That is the key of everything I teach. We're all needy. We're fucking human beings. Of course we're needy. And the victim part of all of us has needs that we don't know, we don't know how to ask for help, we don't even know what we need, but we just feel needy. And the grown-up goddess in all of us, or the grown-up king in all of us, can be aware of the need and ask for what we need and distill what we need. And that is fucking fabulous. So this is just a peek into my frumpiness. My frumpiness was inside. So that something I want you to consider, that when you're feeling frumpy, it doesn't mean you have to look a certain way. It can be an inner frumpy where you think everybody secretly hates you, or that your house is a fucking mess. Or maybe you stopped brushing your hair and you wear clothes that smell. It's okay. And so this 3-day quick and dirty challenge is leading into something called Get Your Sexy On. And again, it's a fun title, but my purpose in doing that is to give everybody an invite to my party, which is everything is acceptable. All your parts, all your neediest of parts that you don't want to befriend. Maybe you'll share them, maybe you won't. But this 30-day thing, I'll tell you about that in another video. I just really want to stick to my story. So I'm curious about your stories. I'm curious about the things that you just don't even want to think about, the things that feel hard and ugly and scared. Those moments, whether you were a teenager in your 30s or 40s or even 50s, they stay with us. They stay in our nervous system. They stay in our blueprint. And at no point are you too old or too fucked up to be able to recognize that need and then give yourself what you need and then be able to move on. It could be just a moment of moving on. So thank you for listening and watching. Anything you want to share, please be kind and nice. And bullies are not allowed. And if you show up, I'm ready for you anyway. Signing off. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.